Hello, this is Kristin Carlson, FocalPoint Business and Executive Coach, and I want to thank the National Cybersecurity Student Association for the opportunity to speak with the students tonight. We did have some technical difficulties, so this is a re-recording, and it'll be a shortened version of what we covered during the call today. So the topic tonight is really on the keys to sustain and thrive in your career. And we're going to cover introductions, just a little bit about me, the characteristics of champions, set and achieve any goal, team accountability and responsibility, and successful connections. So a little bit about me. I do have a 30-year IT career and 20 years in IT leadership, and really love to help people grow in their careers. And going into business and executive coaching is just taking that to a next level, where I help business owners and executives really grow in their careers and make their businesses more profitable faster than they can on their own. So the question we have tonight is, why do some people succeed while others just get by? This was a question Brian Tracy asked himself over 40 years ago when his career was starting. And he started in sales, and he was at the bottom of the ladder. And he looked at the person in the corner office who made it look easy, was making lots of money, but didn't seem to be putting in the time and effort that he was on the job. So he started asking several questions. Why are some people more successful than others? What are the key attributes of successful people? What are the 3 proven ingredients for success? What one key attribute contributes the most to success? What one key daily task separates winners and losers? And are successful people really smarter than us? Let's take a minute to just sit back and think about, what are the characteristics of a champion? Think of somebody that you admire. Somebody like J.J. Watt or Serena Williams, Kelly Clarkson, Jeff Bezos, or Oprah Winfrey. And just describe some key characteristics that make them a champion. Some of the characteristics that were put in the chat were optimistic, empathetic, focused, driven, happy, fulfilled, bold, responsible, love to learn, intelligent. So in 2010, Carnegie Foundation conducted a study to determine what are the key ingredients necessary for success in any endeavor. And what they ultimately concluded was that there are 3 ingredients for success. The first ingredient and foundation was knowledge. A successful individual in our industry or department clearly requires a certain amount of knowledge. And the second key ingredient for success was skill. And skill is really application of that knowledge. So before we get to the third and final ingredient, what percentage do you think the first 2 combined make up? And some of the responses we got was 80%, 30%, 50%. But what the study concluded was actually knowledge and skills added together only accounted for about 15% of the success. And 85% of the success was really based on attitude. So if we go back to the exercise and look at the key characteristics that we had listed for a champion and put a K for knowledge, an S for success, or an A for attitude next to each, you'll find that a majority of the items were truly based on attitude. We've all met people who don't necessarily know that much about their particular field, point to knowledge, but because they're excited and looking at attitude and they're focused and ambitious, they have clear objectives, and they go out and kick some big goals. We've also seen individuals that seem to know almost everything there is to know about their particular field, but for whatever reason, they never apply much of it, so their success is very limited at best. In some cases, they literally become paralyzed by analysis. So what's been helpful so far? Take a minute to think about that exercise and that Carnegie triangle and what we learned. So to begin to look at how we want to be successful, we first need to start at our starting point. And we really find that there's 4 critical areas of our life that we need to have benchmarks on so we can measure progress. Family and relationships, career, financial independence, and health and fitness. So if you take out a piece of paper and you put 4 quadrants, we're going to have business success on the left and family and relationships on the right, financial independence at the top, and health and fitness at the bottom. Just mark from 1 to 10 on each of those axes where you are in your life today. Where do you feel you're at? Where 1 is the lowest and 10 is the highest. And put in X. And then connect those dots to make a shape. And now on the same axis, let's put where you'd like to be in 12 months. Put an X on each of the lines where you'd love to be. Then we draw both boxes. And the inner box is where we are today. The outer box is where we'd like to be. And this is a great starting point to really determine where you want to make the biggest moves in the next 12 years. And you really don't need to be at 10 at every one. Even small moves can really move the needle. So if you were a 3 at the 4 areas, 3 times 3 times 3 times 3 is 81. But then if you only move to 4, 4 times 4 times 4 times 4 is actually 256. So small differences can accumulate into significant advantages. The next thing that successful people do is really they want to set and achieve any goal. So effective, not just efficient. Efficient gets a lot of things done. Effective is getting the important things done. So it's not about doing more, it's about getting better results. So in the corporate world, I always look to my boss to learn how to operate at the higher level. When I had my largest team of 275 people, I would look to my boss who had close to 600. How did she manage email? How did she find time to get to know her team? How did she get the important stuff done? So to get to the next level, I really needed to learn how to operate at that level, think differently, and more strategic. So here's the framework for setting goals. Most people have heard of goals and know their importance for success. Let's look at how to set, and most importantly, how to create a plan, how to attain goals as entrepreneurs. So first we need to decide what we want to do. And then we need to write it down. And this is key. It puts it into your subconscious and it helps you achieve it faster. Next, pick a date. Pick your realistic deadline. And if you can't hit that deadline, then you can set a new deadline. The number one reason why people don't make goals is because they think that what are they going to do if they don't hit it? So make a realistic deadline and give yourself the flexibility to change it if it needs to be changed. Then make a list of all the things that need to get done and prioritize them. Then immediately start and just get going because you want to gain momentum. And we really want to eat the frog. So many times we fear or worry about a difficult and ugly task, and that's the frog. So don't cower from it, do it first. This generated enormous boost to our self-esteem and generates ongoing momentum. So don't look at the frog all day long, but complete it right away. Take a minute just to think about what we've talked about and what you've learned and write it down. The next key is called Victor versus Victim, and it's from the book, The Oz Principle. So we also study how successful people handle challenges and problems versus others. People can look at things from two different perspectives depending on their disposition. Let's take a look at the two perspectives. Think about how you look at problems. Are you a victor or a victim? So above the line, we call them victors. They feel like winning and they raise their hands. Those who live above the line have nothing to prove to anyone. They are comfortable in their own skin and typically lead by example. They have nothing to prove because they are proactive and they take responsibility for all decisions they make. They take ownership of all things they influence. They're visionary and forward-thinking and forward-focused, and they embrace personal and business excellence. Below the line, they act like the victim, and they look at the world and all of its problems. Contrarily, those who live below the line bend with the trends. They bend in the wind, whichever way the wind blows today, they are there. And below the line people blame others and other things for the situations and results. They have all sorts of excuses for why things are the way they are or the way they aren't. And they are generally negative and exhibit the, oh, woe is me syndrome routinely. They're often in denial that they had anything to do with things or that they should have done something at all or that they did something that they shouldn't have done. And last but certainly not least, they are scarcity thinking. They do not embrace competition or self-improvement or others' opinions as valuable. So if I'm just a technician, I look at those and their problems. But as an entrepreneur or a business leader, if there were no problems, no business would exist. There's nothing to solve and there's no need for help. If there's no problems, there's no profit. So 80% of the people actually operate as victors most of the time. while 20% operate as victims. The 20% have an incredible amount of power to bring the 80% down. Think about a team or committee you have been on. Have there been one or two people who were able to drag the rest of the group down? We all know victims, don't we? Successful leaders are victors, and they are proactive, responsible, optimistic, visionary, and enthusiastic. So profit will always comes from the opportunity to help people with their problems. That's the cool part of having a great attitude. Every time there's a problem, we have the opportunity to serve people, improve things, and get rewarded. Companies that are hugely successful have a big impact on a bunch of problems. You can use this for a team to keep them accountable. And when you're really negative and crabby, we can tell each other, let's get above the line. It's got a massive impact in your company, in the workshop, with your team. Hold each and other accountable. You could also print it out and put it on the fridge at home and help your kids or your family to be more accountable. You give each other the permission to help each to get above the line and have above the line thinking. Take another minute to think about the victor versus victim principle and how it can apply to you and your life and your success. The last really key here is communicating for success. So we want to share the tools that are really going to help you take your good communication to great communication. And this applies to anyone you're communicating with it because it focuses on how you communicate with a particular individual, how you build trust, establish rapport, lock down the relationship, resulting in more effective interaction. So communication is everything. So let's take a look at how we communicate with anyone. Really, how can we set ourselves apart? Here's our real answer. We need to capture the 75% that we could be missing. To do that, we need to understand the different behavior styles. By understanding behavior styles, we can then adapt our communication style and connect more effectively. Why do we study behavior styles? First, we really want to understand ourselves, our strengths and challenges, and then recognize others in their observable language. And then the goal is really to adapt and to connect and build trust, really to get better results. So there's 4 basic styles and percentages of people in the US for each of these styles. We're all a blend of all 4, but there's usually one primary one that's noticeable. So dominance is really how you respond to problems and challenges. Influencer is how you influence others to your point of view. Steady relator is how you respond to pace and change in the environment. And compliant analyzer is really how you respond to rules and procedures. There's 4 famous people. So Tiger Woods is the dominance, Oprah Winfrey is influencer, Mother Teresa is steady relator, Bill Gates is compliant and analyzer. All very successful people. So we'll go through a quick exercise here to just determine what your primary style is. So if we take out another piece of paper and build this diagram with the 4 quadrants. On the x-axis, on the left is reserved, the right is outgoing, the top is task, the bottom is people. And if you can place an X on the x-axis where you think you are. Are you more reserved or are you more outgoing? And then on the y-axis, do you believe you're more task-oriented or more people-oriented? You put another X there. We want to connect the dots, and that will tell you what quadrant that you fall in. And this is the quadrants where the styles are. So dominance is outgoing but task-oriented. Influencer is outgoing and people-oriented. Steady relator is people-oriented but more reserved, and compliant is reserved and very task-focused. So where did you fall? So now we'll go through the characteristics of each of these styles. So for dominance, here are the key characteristics. The identifiers, the do's, what to do when you are working with someone that's dominant, and the don'ts. And they're really emphatic in everything they do. So the dominants really want to stick to business and be direct and brief. Only touch on the high points. Ensure the win. Now for the influencer, here are the key characteristics, the identifiers, the do's and don'ts. And we find that the influencers, they want to chat and socialize. They want lots of smiles and they want to talk. Focus on the positive. Make things fun and keep things simple. So they want to chat before they get down to business, where those dominants, they want to just stick to business. So understanding that person's style is very important. For steadiness, here are the key characteristics, the identifiers, the do's and don'ts. So the steadies are slow down and take your time. Start with the personal. Provide lots of assurances and give them time to decide. Let them build trust and ask how questions. So very different than the dominants. But they do bring the balance to the people equation. And the compliance, key characteristics, the identifiers, do's and the don'ts. Do's, they want the detailed information. They want time to think and decide, focus on quality, wait for answers patiently, reduce risk, and use deadline incentives. So opposite of the influencers, the compliance want the details, where your influencers or dominants really don't want the details. Very key to really understand the style of the people that you're working with. Compliance, they really want to know the why behind everything. So the whole goal of the exercise is really adapting to the other style, really mirroring and matching to be successful. Here's a quick summary of the tendencies, and this is like a little cheat sheet, really to help you be more successful with the different styles. Take another minute to see what is key for you and write it down. So success is not an accident. You do have the choice to determine your success, and there are keys and strategies to being successful. So So you have some takeaway items, some action items. And as we talked in the goal setting, just get started and move forward. These are the keys to your success. I do have a special. So if you're interested in that, you can definitely contact me for close to a 50-page report, which really covers the behavior styles assessment. Here is my email. So please send me a note. I'd love to connect with you on LinkedIn. And thank you so much for having me today.